Taeao, and talofa lava to everyone listening in.
Okay. Looks like there were quite a few amendment bills gone past first reading last night in the Parliament of New Zealand. Are you able to tell us about
Yeah,
those?
we had a few good wins on the Labor
Yeah.
side of the House, which was fantastic.
Right.
Jenny Salesa, she's the Labor MP for Panmure Tahu.
Mm.
She had her members' bill pass its first reading last night,
Mm.
and this is the Residential Tenancies Registration of Boarding House
Right.
Landlords Amendment Bill. And this is a huge win to get through first reading. It'll essentially improve the oversight of boarding houses in New Zealand
Right.
by requiring registration of all boarding house landlords under the Residential Tenancies Act.
Mm-mm.
And it aims to protect vulnerable tenants
Right.
and ensure compliance with tenancy laws. And once passed, landlords will not be able to grant a boarding house tenancy unless they're registered, and registration must be renewed annually. So
Right.
boarding houses have some of our most vulnerable in society, people with complex health needs, people leaving institutions, and people with nowhere else to go. So anything that improves their living conditions
Right.
is a good thing.
Excellent.
So I wanted to do a shout out to Jenny on that. She's been a hard-working Pacific MP up in Auckland.
Excellent.
The other one, Taeao,
Yep.
was the Financial Markets
Yes.
International Money Transfers Amendment Bill.
Yes.
So that also passed its first reading. And this was a Labor members' bill introduced by Labor's MP from Manurewa, Arena Williams. So this is quite a practical bill. It will benefit the Samoan community because every day, across our community, people send money overseas. And in South Auckland especially, Pacific communities, migrant communities are the backbone of the local economy. They work hard, they pay tax, they contribute, and many quietly send a bit of cash home each week to help family.
Right.
But right now, too many of them are being stung by fees that they can't clearly see. And this is the problem that the bill seeks to fix.
Right.
So at the moment, some providers advertise zero fees, but the real cost is hidden in the exchange rate spread. So people think that they're getting a bargain, but they're actually not. They only realise later on when far less money has arrived than what they expected. So this is not a properly functioning market in our view. And a market only works, when consumers compare prices, they can make informed choices, and they know what they're paying.
Right.
And if the real fee's hidden, there's no real competition and there's no fair deal. So this bill will require upfront disclosure, so people know the true cost at the point of sale, whether it's in a branch, in a shop front, or online. People should be able to see clearly what they're paying for and how much the recipient at the other end in the islands will receive. So simple as that.
Right.
The last one I'll touch on, Taeao, and it's on the other side. So the government is pushing through the sale and supply of alcohol, improving alcohol regulation, or so they say, amendment bill. That's going through Parliament at the moment. This worries me because it reduces the ability for local communities to object licence applications. And it also means that communities will have less ability to object liquor licence renewals.
Right.
And I don't want to see a proliferation of liquor stores in our communities. And neither do the Pacific leaders and church groups that I talk to either. And I've heard that consistently wherever I am in the country. So I'll be working hard with my caucus colleagues to wind that back. And if anyone out there that's listening has concerns, please reach out. Submissions are closed, but I'm really keen to hear what people think about that, because we will be hitting the government hard on this, because we don't feel that people in our community are going to get an adequate say.
Excellent, Dan. I can see there was another one, amendment bill that was gone past first reading last night. One of your Labour MP colleagues, a bill, as far as I know, on the modern slavery. Are you able to elaborate on that one, please?
Yeah. So, right now, the modern slavery legislation is it's an opaque area of legislation. It's actually hard to define. With this bill, it actually seeks to kind of clarify, you know, what modern slavery is in legislation. Because as we know, this kind of stuff is it happens in our communities, whether it's someone working in a fish and chip shop, whether it's someone working behind the scenes in a small business, and they're not always captured in legislation. And sometimes those employees don't feel that they can approach authorities because because of their migrant status and all that kind of thing. So this legislation will shed sunlight on this important issue and to make sure it is clear in legislation what modern slavery is and how we can prosecute it.
Right. Okay, excellent, Dan. Now I can see these bills are now heading to select committee. What should the public, especially Pacifica and Samoan communities, be watching for?
Yes, I really encourage everybody to go onto the Parliament website. It's very easy to navigate. You can look at what's before the select committee.
Right.
Put through submissions. Talk to your church groups. Talk to community groups. A community group will get a 10-minute submission. So if they want to speak to that submission, they usually get 10 minutes. Individuals only get 5. So if you can really rally behind your community groups to contribute, my colleagues will be on the other side of that contribution. We read all of them, and it really helps our officials get a temperature check on how the community feels about things. So absolutely get amongst it, make some submissions.
Dan, do you expect significant amendments at select committee, and what kind of feedback would you encourage people to submit?
I would very much encourage people to put feedback into how it affects them in their daily lives. If they can tell a story about how this bill will affect them and their family and how they navigate their community, that's very powerful. Sometimes you get a lot of organisations and they talk about, the academic side of things, which can be quite hard for everyday people to connect with. If I really love submissions that kind of tell a story, and that really motivates me, the officials, and my colleagues, and we can really pick that apart. And then if there's amendments to be made, we certainly put them through.
Okay, Dan, let's move on to the next one. There's been ongoing concern about New Zealand's fuel stock levels and our resilience in a crisis. Where do things currently stand from your perspective?
Yeah, so we've learned a lot over the last few months with this crisis. The way our stock levels are measured, it's offshore and onshore. The only way to really kind of mitigate this is to have more onshore stock levels. A bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush. What we've also learnt is, these soaring fuel prices, they're adding another layer of expense to a country that was already, the cost of living was already significant, and people were already doing it tough. We can fluff around the edges as much as we like. We can increase vehicle weights, dimensions, we can change the times that trucks can travel through our communities. But at the end of the day, when our community go to the petrol station, they put that Bowser into their filler tank, they're feeling it in their back pocket. And that's where our relief needs to come from. So it's not specified at a certain group. It really kind of provides coverage to the people that really need it in our community.
Some reports have suggested New Zealand holds fewer days of fuel stock compared to other OECD countries. What are the key factors behind that, Dan?
I think it's just our history as a country. We've been in a benign strategic environment for the last 80 years. And we have embraced, like many other countries around the world, just-in-time logistics, where people avoid having large stockpiles of anything because it costs money to store it. So if they can make it arrive just in time, that's efficiency. But what we need to do as a country is move away from efficiency and into the resilience space. and being at the end of the earth, you don't travel through New Zealand to go anywhere else. This is more important than ever.
Yeah. Okay, so what steps do you believe the government should be taking to strengthen fuel security?
Well, we need to have a national conversation about our stock holdings, how much we're going to keep on shore. Having 1 month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Japan has 3 months stock holdings. Other countries have a lot more than us. So we really need to have that conversation about what we would need, because this is just one crisis. It's a regional conflict.
Right.
What if we had a major power conflict in the Pacific? What would that look like? How would we provide fuel and assistance to our Pacific brothers and sisters? These are all things that we need to start talking about.
Okay, finally, Dan, what does success look like for you over the next 12 months, both in Parliament and in your Waimakariri?
Success for me is really trying to do the basics well, getting out on the doors, talking to people, hearing what they have to say, getting on the phones. My electorate is very spread out.
Yeah.
So the only way to really connect with people is phone calling, door knocking, just walking the streets and visiting businesses and people in the street.
Yeah.
Doing those basic things are going to be very important, and that's where I see success.
Okay, Dan, before I let you go, election is about 6 months away from today. There will be changes for this year's election. Would you like to remind our listeners about some of the changes?
Yeah, so one key change is the Electoral Amendment Bill.
Yeah.
That ends same-day voter enrolment.
Right.
And it also allows for larger anonymous political donations, and clarifies a few other things.
Right.
But the key thing I really want to highlight today is it means you can't enroll to vote on the day.
Right.
So the accessibility of voting has reduced. People must enrol at least 13 days before the election. So if I do my math, 7th of November is election day.
Yeah.
Please enrol by the 25th of October, or even enrol now. Go online and enrol now. Get that locked in, so you can have your say.
The earlier the better, eh?
Earlier the better.
Dan Rosewarne, Whawhetai Te Lava, thank you so much for your time. But we love it, so have a great day, sir. Whawhetai lava. O le sunga Dan Rosewarne. Ma le tanoanga nei fo i Taeao fo le tau tō mora, because I was for lima. He was told one more.